Okay. This meeting will now come to order. Welcome to the May 8th, 2023 meeting of the Asheville Noise Advisory Board. My name is Jessica Thomason. I am the chair of the Noise Advisory Board. I will introduce each agenda item and facilitate the meeting to help our audience follow along. All committee members and staff are participating virtually today. We are streaming live on our Virtual Engagement Hub, which is accessible through the Virtual Engagement Hub link on the front page of the city website and also linked on the Noise Advisory Board page. For those of you out there with us today, welcome. I will go ahead and introduce all board members and staff who are participating virtually today. Please make sure to mute your microphone if you are not speaking. When you have a question or would like to speak, please unmute your microphone. Board members, as I call your name, please acknowledge your presence. Rick Freeman.
Present.
All right. Liliana Woody.
Present.
Carmelo Papilonio. Oh, he's not here?
Got an email from him, said work got in the way.
Oh, okay. I missed that. Okay. Jeff Santiago.
Here.
David Ledger.
Present.
Also not present today is Reb Hazlib. Also participating today is Councilwoman Antoinette Mosley.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. Noise Administrator Todd Justice.
Hello.
And we also have Mark Matheny on this call with us today. Hi,
Good
Mark.
afternoon, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well. Thank you.
Thanks for being here. Okay, so this meeting is now called to order, and we will start with the approval of the minutes from the last meeting. You have in your agenda a link to the meeting minutes from last month. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll move to approve.
Rick moves to approve. Can I get a second, please?
I'll second.
Liliana gives a second. Thanks so much. Jeff Santiago, can we get a yay or nay on approval of the minutes?
Yay.
Great. David Ledger?
Yay.
I also yay. And so the meeting minutes for last month's meeting are approved. Thank you so much, everyone. Okay, so we're going to move on to the noise administrator check-in. We're going to take a look at the staff report. Hopefully everyone's had a chance to take a look at that. As you know, as we're in the second week of May, we're definitely into the time of year where we start to see more complaints come up. Has everybody had a chance to look at that staff report? Are there any questions or comments about the staff report? I do have one question for Todd. When we talked before, you had said that there was potentially some complaints that came in, same complaint that was filed a few different ways. I'm just wondering, these numbers here, are they reflective of taking out any duplications that you found?
No, that's still the raw data that we could collect from the complaints.
Okay, gotcha. Good to know. Any questions, comments from board members? We see that we had asked for info about the sound exceedance permits, and we see as of right now, there's only been one sound exceedance permit that's been applied for 2023 so far. No questions, no comments? Okay. All right, we'll move on to old business. Our first order of old business is our Noise Advisory Board Rules of Procedure updates, and that's in regards to meeting frequency. So we had agreed at the beginning of the year that we were going to continue to meet monthly until right now. I believe that's what we talked about. And so we talked about going to having quarterly meetings after that, which I think is fairly typical of a number of the boards for the city. And so we wanted to open it up for discussion in regards to what everybody thought we should do in terms of meeting frequency. Should we be continuing to meet every month? Should we be moving to meeting every 3 months? Where does everyone stand on that? Board members and staff. Rick?
If it were possible, according to the rules, I'd propose we continue to meet every month under the assumption that we're going to get in front of the Environment and Safety Committee this month, and that would then, if our recommendations were approved, would create work that we needed to get going on, right? So the vehicle noise and helping frame the task force and all that stuff would create work, and people are not fully assigned to that. So it would be a shame if we went away for 3 months and that work didn't proceed. If, on the other hand, all of that gets disapproved or whatever, or delayed, then we could, skip months until those tasks came back on. So that'd be part one. Part two, the Decibel Working Group is going to pick up its pace. We had a meeting on Friday, and I won't detail that, but people should be aware that stuff will probably have to start happening fairly quickly. And if it's the board's preference to get updates this way, where we enter into conversation, then I think we need to keep meeting every month so that we can tell you what we learned and you can send us in a new direction or that sort of thing. If the board is equally happy in getting written updates, then it wouldn't be necessary. I can't judge at this point in time whether what we're going to learn is going to be obvious or whether it's going to be complicated. So those would be two reasons to keep meeting until we were not busy, and then slow down the pace. Just my opinion. Thank you.
Okay, thanks, Rick. Councilwoman Mosley?
Thanks, Jessica. I will say I was able to, well, actually via text with Ben Woody today to get a better understanding of when you'll come before the Environment and Public Safety Committee. I believe when the three of us last spoke, it was supposed to be May. The city manager told me she was going to be putting that on their agenda for May. After I spoke with the city manager, I spoke with the chair of the committee, and she said she preferred June. So as of now, I don't know when you'll be in front of Environment and Public Safety, but I will say in our check-in, I did not see you on their May agenda. So more likely than not, it will probably be June. So I encourage you to speak to Ben Woody after this meeting so you'll know for sure.
Okay, great. Yeah, we got an email from Katie that said, so we ended up talking to Ben after we talked to you, and yeah, it's been posed to us either May or June, but there's a very good possibility that if we tried for May, we'd get bumped from the agenda, which sounds like maybe that's already sort of the course that they're taking, and that we'd end up in June. And so we're definitely going to talk about that. Yeah, we're going to talk about that. That's on the list, the agenda today to talk about. So that's good. That's good to know. Thank you for that information. And we'll definitely follow up with Ben.
And you could always, you could do every other month and have a special call meeting, or you could do every month and cancel. It's just, it's just as long as you do it with enough time.
With enough notice.
Mhm.
Okay. Okay, great. Thanks for that. That's good to know too. Liliana?
Kind of agree with Rick. We're coming to a busy time. It seems appropriate for us to meet now once a month, and maybe in the winter months we can re-examine and go maybe every other month when it's not so busy and not so many things that we may have to address. I think being on top of it together is probably more effective. That's my opinion on that. That's all.
Okay, great. Thank you. Thank you for your feedback. Dave or Jeff, what do you all think? Where do you stand?
I can go. Well, we do have some work ahead of us. That's the thing. I mean, I would love to take this to every couple months, but but we do have work ahead of us. So I'm okay with continuing to meet regularly.
Okay, great. Councilwoman Mosley?
Ordinarily, I wouldn't do this, but it might be a good time to check with staff to see their availability. What it's making me think of that is when Leanna mentioned, now might be a great time while it's busier. So I will say, so for council, we take July is a pretty slower month where we only have one meeting. So there are 2 months where we only have one meeting. I don't know if based on that, staff sometimes takes time off too. So I'm not sure of staff's availability during this particular time period. So if anyone feels comfortable discussing that, now would be the time, or maybe they're just the opposite. Maybe it'd be a good time for y'all to work on this so that when everyone comes back, it's there and ready. I just don't know. I see Todd. So, Todd?
So my recommendation would be that we make it very obvious on the website that at the agenda meeting, we will be making a decision whether we're going to have a meeting that month, that we move the agenda meeting up a couple weeks to give everyone, some time to react if we do cancel the meeting. As far as staffing, we have a broad enough staff that we can have somebody, if I'm on vacation or someone else is on vacation, we can usually cover down with somebody else who can stand in. So that I don't think that's going to be a hardship on us. I would I would recommend that you publicize that you're going to be making the decision each month whether you're going to have a meeting or not, and just do that far enough in advance that people can react to it.
Okay, thanks, Todd. Dave, do you want to add your thoughts?
I think as long as there's data, once a month, I see value in that. And quarterly or every other month, I guess, if there's nothing new to discuss.
Okay. I feel like I want to discuss this. I know it's new business, but in terms of, I think this is going to help dictate how this goes. So Rick and I would either go in front of the Environment and Safety Committee on May 23rd or June 27th. Those are the two dates. And it sounds like even if we decide that we want to try for the May 23rd, we may still get bumped because there's a couple of other things. I think part of that is public safety is the big discussion point for that May 23rd meeting, which is probably going to take up a majority of that meeting. So from what we've been told. So if we didn't present until June 27th, does it make sense for us to have our June meeting while part of and so let me explain too. So part of the reason for us going in front of Environment and Safety Committee is so that we can take the recommendations that we made in our annual report and basically see if we can get that further down the road of getting support from the city in terms of the waste hauler noise issue and having city resources and personnel put towards having the things that we've asked for. That's also putting city resources towards doing another overall survey to the general public about thoughts and where how effective the noise ordinance has been now that it's been in effect since September of 2021. And the third is the work with the vehicle noise. And so part of what Rick and I's concerns were is that if we didn't get the support from the city, then some of these working groups are sort of on hold until we have the support from the city in some of the things that we're asking. So with that being said, I think that's something to take into consideration if we're not going to meet until June, go in front of them until June 27th, will we have enough things for our June 12th meeting, which is what our meeting is. I will also say that I will not be able to be at that meeting because I will actually be traveling that day. So I will not be at the June 12th meeting. Rick, you want to go first? And then Todd?
Let's say for sake of argument that we're not going to go until June before the committee. Is it okay with the board that the slides that Jessica and I produce for that meeting, because I think that's the standard behavior, will not have been reviewed and approved by the board before we go? Because I don't think we have another mechanism under the rules of how these things work to get that done. So let me just put that out there, that you'd have to trust us to not make a mockery of what the report already says. We just have to make it pretty and concise so that we get their attention. So you guys should just consider that when you make that decision.
That's an excellent point. Todd?
The only sticking thing about the schedule and how often you meet is you're very limited in what you can do outside of a public forum. So that goes directly to Rick's point. That's why I was going to recommend, or I did recommend, that you make that decision at the agenda meeting when you're actually looking at what are we going to talk about in the next meeting. And then you can decide if, you need to have a meeting or not. And maybe sometimes there's just nothing that can't wait. So yeah.
Okay. Thanks for that information. Okay. So I like that idea. I like the idea of us deciding if we have the meeting based on just hearing everybody else of like, we know we have a lot of work to do. We know this is obviously, if everybody's looked at the staff reports and we're seeing that it's that time of year, a ton more complaints are coming in as it's getting warmer and it's outdoor season. And so, I think if everybody's okay with us making those decisions and on a case-by-case basis each month, but we just do it in enough time, I think that would be ideal. Because and also as Rick said, while I may not be able to be at the meeting, it is ideal for everybody to see the information that we're presenting and just making sure that we're dotting all the I's and crossing the T's of making sure that we're really getting our point across to get the support that we need. So I'm going to say, I'm going to vote for deciding, continue with the intention of meeting every month, but meeting every month with the intent that we have enough information and enough data, for instance, as David said, and enough agenda items that we're going to move forward with that. Does everybody feel good about that? Okay, so we should probably vote on that. So I will say, if I can get a motion to approve continuing to meet every month with the understanding that the decision to meet will be decided in the agenda setting meeting with having enough points of interest for discussion on the agenda that we continue to move forward. Can I get a motion to approve?
I'll motion to approve.
Jeff, thank you. Can I get a second?
I'll second.
Great, thank you, Liliana. Rick, yay or nay?
Yay.
Great. David, yay or nay?
Yay.
Okay, and yay for me. So that motion is approved. We will continue to meet once a month. Todd, do you still have you have your hand raised a second time, or is this from the last time and I'm just still seeing it?
No, sorry, that's just my wandering thumb.
Okay. Oh, good. Hey, if it's not that, it's being muted, right? So it's yeah, welcome to Google Meet video meetings. All right, so moving on to old business, adjacent noise task force update. And so I think Liliana and Reb were meeting on that. Unfortunately, he can't be here today. Liliana, do you have an update for us?
I do not. Rev and I did not meet.
Oh,
So,
okay.
I'm sorry. I don't know. I'm not exactly sure where we are on that.
Okay.
I need to reach out to him.
Yeah, completely fine. He's out of town right now. So
Right.
maybe if you all can follow up and just let us know if that's something that we need to put for an agenda item for June, for next month. Okay, moving on to new business. So present action items to Environment and Safety Committee. So this is basically what we've already talked about. So Rick and I plan to create some slides. I think best case scenarios, we'll reach out to Ben Woody after this meeting. And I think we should just plan for June 20th. I mean, that's when the slides are due. The meeting's on June 27th. I think that we're going to get more attention to the things that are important and what we're trying to address noise wise if we push it down the block a little bit. And again, we may just get bumped anyway. So I think that's going to be ideal. We need to turn those slides in by June 20th. So Rick and I can get together and make a plan. But again, it's just to address those things to see if we can't move forward, getting some city and support for the 3 things that we've put in our annual report that we want to continue to move down the pike. So, Rick, do you want to add anything to that?
We were given, Ben made a really key point when we talked to him about preparing for this, that we should ensure we have staff support. Todd was kind enough to join us at our agenda meeting last week, and we talked this through. And for the things that he'd be engaging with, we feel like we have his support. Mark, you haven't been coming to these meetings, and if I understand your job correctly, you have a broader reach than just noise. So the one thing I want to make sure between now and June is that I have support for the notion of a task force on waste hauler pickup times and safety and all that kind of stuff. I tried, this was holiday time and people in the city department responsible for that stuff. One key leader was on medical leave, and we exchanged some emails and stuff like that, but I never really felt that I either got a thumbs up or a thumbs down. So I agree with Jessica, we should push till June, because then we get to bring the slides back, and that would give us time for me to work offline with Mark to make sure that he's fully aware of that recommendation related to the task force for waste haulers, because I've seen council meetings where the staff's in disagreement with the recommendation of whoever's presenting, and it's not a pretty picture. So in one case, it was to the benefit of my neighborhood that staff was in agreement with us instead of the presenter. So I kind of liked how that one turned out, but if it had been the other way around, it wouldn't have been so pleasant. So if it's okay with you, Mark, I don't really have your contact information. If I could get that somehow, I'd just like to walk you through that part of the report that we did, if you're not up to date on it.
Yeah, thanks so much, Rick. And yeah, I do obviously, there's as everybody deals with in life, there's a lot of moving parts. There's a lot of moving parts in this interim position. We're hoping that it fine tunes itself within the next couple of weeks, and we know for sure which way everything's going to go. Being here, I do rely very heavily on our Northeast team and our work group. Todd and his team do fantastic work, and so I'm glad I can actually have them kind of as the spearhead for all that. But we do touch base and catch up on items as they do go through. So I do find out kind of maybe back of the house type of way. Yeah, and we definitely want to have these conversations, and work through any of the ideas and any of the concepts, and find where we're apart and where we're close, prior to actually laying that out in front of one of these committee meetings. So glad to do any work we need to do. I can send you an email. I've got your contact information based on this meeting, and I'll send you my cell phone, which is all I use. So you have a cell phone and email address, and we can put together as large or as small as a team as you want to work through these pieces.
Okay, great. So I'll take that as an action item to work that with Mark prior to our next agenda setting meeting.
Okay, great. And then you and I can get together about just creating those slides and all that after this. Okay, great. Let's see. Can we get a decibel investigation update since you all had a meeting on Friday?
Yeah. So Carmelo, Jeff, and Reb and I purloined Reb since the vehicle noise is on hold until we get through the committee meetings. So we had a meeting, we talked about a lot of good stuff. We agreed that a couple things, we got to get going because the noise sources are getting busy. It's the sound sources, I should stop calling them noise. The sound sources are getting busy and the complaints are coming up. And, since we're here on behalf of all kinds of people, including the community, just showing movement is paramount. That was one. We had very strong debate about low frequency measurements and DBC. Carmelo brought a lot of science to the table, and I think we're leaning toward. We're still going to take the measurements, but we're probably not going to end up making a recommendation for ordinance change that is just to add a DBC limit, but more, as we have seen in other cities, that when the compliance officer observes heavy DBC, then there is a modifier to the DBA measurement. So it's like if DBA limit was 65, for example, and there was heavy decibel, low frequency stuff present, because you can just hear it, it's a judgment call on behalf of the compliance person, there'd be some reduction in the allowable amount of DBA. And Reb and I worked a lot and read at least 15 other noise ordinance documents from other cities, and they'd have a statement like that. It's much like the statement in the existing noise ordinance that says if it's like a bang noise, an impulse noise, then the DBA drops by 8 decibels or 5 decibels or whatever it is. Or if it's a continual high-pitched noise, then the allowable DBA drops. So we'd be looking to learn enough to make recommendations on that point. And I felt like we had good consensus as a result of that conversation. So we're still going to go measure. We still need to work that stuff out. The short-term actions, Jeff is going to look through the sound sources, and to the degree those sound sources have published times when they'll be generating sound, that will give us kind of a calendar of when we need to be ready to go to complainant areas in order to make measurements. That's going to drive kind of the calendar of what we're going to do. So it's not only the times when we think the sound sources are going to be active, but when are the sound sources going to be inactive so we can get ambient measurements, right? Because if it's noisy all the time, if everything's running at 64 dB because of traffic and who knows what else, then it becomes as much an education process with the complainant as it is the measurement of the occasional sound that pops it up a dB or two. So that's going to be critical to building a calendar to do this. So he's going to put that together. And Jeff, you still have access to the original list of complainants and stuff, so you ought to be able to pull who all the sound sources are, so you can do that.
Absolutely.
Okay. I am going to send an email to every complainant that has an email address that we've already dealt with, and share with them the waiver that they're going to be asked to sign. I don't want to go too far down the road with anybody until they know that that's kind of how it's going to work. So I'll have to explain this is a waiver because the compliance team is not responding to a complaint on the moment that gives them all the rights to do the things they need to do. This is a waiver to allow us onto your property to take ambient measurements inside and outside. And so we're going to find out what the population is that remains who are actually willing to do that, because it's one thing to say in response to a survey that I'm willing to have you out of my property. It's another thing to sign a waiver. And I also thought I would, to the people who never wanted to be surveyed or any new complainants from, because that data was pulled, God, when, I don't know, a long time ago. I'd also send a waiver and an explanation to other complainants who have, made a complaint, and the compliance team has said that the sound source is within compliance, and just explain if they want to be included in this, they need to let me know. So we know the population that we've got. The other thing we decided was we'd probably take on sound source at a time, assuming that we have the requisite resources. So if there are 4 complainants all complaining about sound source A, and sound source A's got scheduled events coming up, we'd try to take care of that as a group, go in and get that taken care of. So we have the breadth of information about that source and the complainants, so we could see any dispersion in how the levels are and the ambient and all that kind of stuff, and then kind of move on to the next one and the next one until we've run out of either capacity to do it or we've finished our job. So those are the 2 steps. We will, when Jeff is done and I get feedback from the complainants on their willingness to sign the waivers, then we'll convene another working group meeting to actually, and that one will have Todd or his representative in it, so we can actually start to say, okay, on this date, we want to go there and there and there to get ambience. And on this date, we want to go back to there and there and there because there's going to be a sound source that's present. And here's the measurements we're going to take. We'll do one somebody somewhere first and make sure that our process is sound, right? Because that stuff, we screw it up all the time. We think we know exactly where somebody's going to stand and how they're going to take a measurement, especially with the DBC stuff, since the city doesn't have a standard. They have a standard LEQA 1 for DBAs, so that's the gold standard, but we have to discuss the DBC, and there might be some experimentation on the first example so that we can fix it going forward. So it's a lot of work, and thanks to all the people who want to participate, and for Todd and the staff's support. That's kind of where we are. It's a lot. Any questions? Anybody got any ideas or other thoughts?
Are you involving the sound, like the sound source in any of this? That with what you're doing? I'm
we
just
didn't
curious.
we didn't discuss that at all. I have both good feelings and bad feelings about doing that. The bad feelings are too many cooks.
Yeah.
You
Mhm.
know, it gets hard to measure sound if 4 people are standing around.
Yeah.
You know, and I wouldn't want the sound producer to do anything different than they normally do
Right.
on those days.
Yeah.
Right? Because it should, you know, they're in compliance right now. So this is not a question of whether they're in compliance or not. This is a question of what is actually a new measurement that they don't know whether they're in compliance on because there's no law.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I'm open to what's the right thing to do, but I don't want the test to be questioned by the public because you know how it goes. They turned it down because they knew you were going to be there, and then
no.
we're nowhere.
No, I totally get it. And I think the other part of that is too, is like, you know, especially as we're talking about music, is that, you know, sometimes there's different people who are running sound, right? So sometimes, it's outside engineers that are people who are traveling with a band. And then sometimes it's the staff, and, you know, Jeff can speak more to that too. And so I'm not saying I think you need to at all. I was just curious as to if that was something that was talked about at all. So Jeff.
Yeah, I mean, from where I stand, I kind of want to reiterate what Rick was saying, that we're still in the process of figuring this out too, making sure that it's an appropriate process and we're getting it right. And so I think I agree with Rick. If we have too many people involved with it initially, it could muddle it up. So we just want to get some data first and systems for obtaining that data, and then we'll go from there.
Okay.
And maybe just on that theme, since we're measuring something that is not currently part of the ordinance, once we have a representative data set, I think we have to include the sound sources then, right? We have to, you know, because, you know, that here's what we found, you know, here are measurements with the calibrated tools as taken on these dates and all that kind of stuff. And here's what thinking we have about this, so that they can say to us and everybody else in a very good way, oh, well, that's impossible to mitigate, or, oh, that's a piece of cake, you know. That guy didn't have the pillow in his bass drum that night.
Right.
just to make something up for somebody who knows nothing about music. Mm-hmm. I thought I'd get a laugh from Jeff on that one. You know, so I mean, we won't move toward making a recommendation for ordinance language change until we've engaged sound producers. It'd be suicide to just try to pop that into city council without having some discussion.
Okay, great. Thanks, guys. Liliana, did you have a question or something you wanted to add?
No, I agree with Rick on most everything he said. I just think it's we need to just let the people know that are running their venue and have the sound after the fact. I think it'd be mudded up before. I totally agree with that. Being in that position too. That's
Does anybody have any other questions or comments for the decibel investigation, decibel level working group? If not, then we are going to move on to public comments. Ashley, do we have anybody who is waiting to give public comment?
We do not have any callers this time.
Okay. Well, if there are no objections, we are going to adjourn this meeting. Are there any objections? No objections. Hearing none, this meeting is adjourned. Our next meeting will be on Monday, June 12th. So,
All right.
all right. Thank you, everyone.
Well done, everybody.
Thank you, everyone. I
Thank you.
appreciate you. Thanks. Okay.